There are times where somebody says it better than you. And when they do, you should give them the respect that they deserve and be like, hey, they said it better. Sometimes people say it cleaner than you do, and you should give them the respect and say, hey, that's cleaner than I do it. I think when it comes to a discussion of socialism versus capitalism, I'm pretty good at saying it straight, saying it clean, saying it direct. I'm pretty good at this stage of the game at explaining the differences and why one is worthwhile and one is not. But when someone says it well, give them the credit that they are due. Guys, welcome to the show. Good to be with you. Presented by Americans for Prosperity, americansforprosperity.org, economic liberty, free speech. Those are the good things. This is Francis Suarez. Francis Suarez is the mayor of Miami. He's in his second term. He won his first term by over 80% of the vote. He got his second term with 78% of the vote, I believe it is. He's a Republican. He's 45 years old. I tell you that as I hit my microphone to let you know that, man, Republicans have a crazy, crazy deep bench. He also was born in the United States. His parents, I believe, were born in Cuba. And in Miami, there has not been a mayor born in the U.S. since, I think, 1996. They've all been immigrants from Cuba or somewhere else. And, of course, the stories of what it was like to have to flee communism, the hellscape that came when Fidel Castro took power. Now, if anybody would like to argue this, well, that's the sure tell sign that they're a communist. If you want to argue that things somehow got better under Fidel Castro, you're more than welcome to do that. You're also a fool. One of the things that you'll sometimes hear is, well, the literacy rate is 100% in Cuba. And you're told exactly what to read. That's the trade-off. The trade-off is you're forced to read, and you're then told what you can read, as opposed to deciding what you can read, or writing what you want to write and then posting it places, or sharing it places, or publishing it places. Because if the government doesn't want it heard, it won't be heard. Remember what Stalin did after Lenin. You couldn't engage a piece of art that didn't have the communist seal approval. You couldn't engage in any writings. You couldn't engage in any type of artistic expression that wasn't about glorifying the state. Cuba's just the same, because all communists are the same. You cannot speak freely. They will tell you what to speak, and you have to say the things that they approve of. In China, we see this with the social credit score. You have to smile the right amount of times. You have to do the right things. Otherwise, you lose your ability to, let's say, travel. China is a hellscape because all communist nations are indeed hellscapes. This brings us back to the mayor of Miami, who, speaking with Maria Bartiromo, man, he hit it beautifully. And he was commenting on Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who was in New York for a law enforcement event. And there's Eric Adams, who is the mayor of New York, saying, welcome to New York, where we don't treat people like this and we don't ban books and you can learn some things here. Eric Adams in New York are going to teach Ron DeSantis? They're going to teach anybody? As Christina Pashaw, who is a spokesperson for the campaign, stated, don't forget all those New Yorkers who moved to Florida because they actually wanted to live a better life, which is, of course, completely and totally true. They have. They've moved in droves. Out of California, was it 700,000 people moved out last year alone, I think it was. This has been going on for a while. California, of course, cannot keep up. It cannot do this any longer. And California responds by saying, hey, why don't we engage legislation that states anybody born after 2007 is never allowed to smoke anything in this state again? That's actually a piece of legislation that they're working on. That you, if you're born after 2007, it's not that you can't smoke a cigarette, you can't smoke a cigar, you can't smoke anything. That's who these people are. Now, you argue that they're not communists. Sure, they're socialists. Oh, wait, they're democratic socialists. It's all the same. Yes, there are differences in the definition, but is there any difference in where it eventually takes you, with the government as your nanny knowing best for you and therefore deciding for you? And if you should want to decide for yourself, well, then you're the problem. We see this with schools. We see parents finally waking up to what's happening to their children and saying, hey, we don't want this happening to our children. And the federal government refers to them as domestic terrorists. Well, my gosh, how slippery the slope is from that to then deciding that you shouldn't have a say in your child's education at all. After all, you don't have a master's degree. That actually got said by a teacher at a school board meeting in Arizona. We have master's degrees. What degrees do parents have? Why do they have a say in their kids' education? So don't tell me about differences when it comes to definitions. I concede that there are differences when it comes to definitions. There is no difference when it comes to the end goal. When it comes to playing out their charade, their lies to the end. And I do call them lies. And it's a different tone that I use on this, where I'm usually possibly a bit more affable. I shouldn't say possibly, definitely a bit more affable. And I want to hear what other people say. I've never understood never Trump. Never Trump never made any sense whatsoever. And certainly not a conservative position. Never communism. That's a human position, because communism is the opposition of humanity. Communism and socialism have never inspired anything except a prayer for a quick and painless death. Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami, clearly understands this, clearly knows what it is his parents taught him. And this was him with Maria Bartiromo in the background of that conversation of Mayor Eric Adams thinking that he could lecture to Governor Ron DeSantis and failing. Listen.
Look, I think it's a hard business proposition for anyone who's living in New York right now and is a high tax earner, because by the tax code, I mean, anyone who lives in New York is probably in one of the upper tax brackets. They're paying 54 cents out of every dollar that they earn in taxes to a government. That's 54 cents. That means that the government is your majority partner in your business, and you don't get much of a say in that partnership stake. So that's a broken system, and it's not going to be successful. You cannot tax your way to solve every single social problem. That's not the way it works. That's not government's role. Government's role was created to solve limited amount of problems that we all agree on are the set of problems that we should be handling, and then let the private sector innovate, create jobs, and create success. That's what's defined America. That's why this has been such a prosperous country for so many years. We can never lose that identity. I mean, my parents were exiled from Cuba, our country of birth, their country of birth. I was born here in the U.S. And, and we saw what happens when a leader says, give us all your property, give us all your businesses, don't worry, we'll make everybody equal. And they did. Yeah. They made everybody equally miserable and equally poor. So that's a failed system for sure.
When someone says it better than you do, show them the respect that they deserve. And what Mayor Suarez has said here is absolutely positively perfect. That New York cannot sell what it's selling because what it's selling doesn't work. 54 cents. Now, people could go back and forth on that number, but can anybody question whether or not the pleasure of living in New York means they are your partner? And yes, your majority partner, and you don't have a say in the partnership? No one can argue this. No one can question this. This is an absolutely factual statement. That the taxation is brutal and the resident, the citizen, is treated like someone who is just there as an ATM machine to pump out the dollars for their never-ending number of social programs to make things fair. When we talk about, for example, fair share, or they talk about fair share, you got to pay your fair share of taxes. Corporations need to pay their fair share of taxes. No one can ever explain what fair share is. They cannot define what fair share is because fair share doesn't mean anything. What fair share is to you is different than what fair share is to me, is different than what fair share is to somebody else. There is no definition of fair share. Thus, it can always be a little bit more because, after all, a little bit more clearly, by definition, has to be more fair or something. They never stop, they never rest, they never quit. That's a paraphrase of Michael Walsh, who is the editor of the book Against the Great Reset and The Devil's Pleasure Palace and The Fiery Angel, books that you should read that really kind of delve into a lot of these issues and subjects. But you catch him at the end there, talking about what socialism has brought, what communism has brought, and how we don't want that. That isn't what America is all about. That isn't our promise and our concept and our idea and our philosophy. He's again 100% correct. Yet we have the never-ending chorus of people like Representative Ocasio Cortez and Senator Bernie Sanders who actually think that this democratic socialism brings a value. Of course it doesn't. They don't bring any values. They have never created anything. That's not true. That's not true. Representative Ocasio Cortez created a drink. And you think I'm saying that as a way of attacking her. Oh, no, 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 no. I don't insult the bartender. I don't insult the people who work for a living. They show up and they work, and that gets my respect. But Bernie Sanders, man's never held a job. He's never created anything. His wife did bankrupt the college. That much did happen. But what has he created? Books? He's got a book right now. It's okay to be angry about capitalism. Oh, he's going on a book tour with it. And for this book tour, he's getting theaters, and he's using Ticketmaster to sell tickets up to $95 each. The Democratic Socialist, there's no democratic socialism. They're all socialists, nay communists. He is what he is. This is a guy who once said breadlines are a good thing. He did say that. By the way, I have the audio to prove it. He's selling tickets on Ticketmaster for $95 to tell you why capitalism is the problem. No. Bernie Sanders is the problem. That's why I'm actually creating the tour. We're actually looking for theaters now. It's okay to be angry about Bernie Sanders. You think I'm kidding? Anybody who's been listening to our radio shows knows that I'm putting this together, and we're going to do our first stop in Indiana. I don't know if it's going to be in Indianapolis or one of the surrounding areas, or maybe down in Bloomington, Indiana, where University of Indiana is. Indiana University. I can't believe I just said it that way. Forgive me. I'm not feeling well, and it's late. And it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be such a good time, and then we'll take it on the road. It's going to be absolutely terrific. By the way, there is a University of Indianapolis, but that's in Indianapolis. It's IU. It's Indiana University. Don't get it twisted, my good people. Bernie Sanders never created anything, but Bernie Sanders always has a reason why you should pay a little bit more, why capitalism isn't treating this one well, why we need to take more from these people, why we need to take more from the other people. He fantasizes about breadlines. Or you can listen to the mayor of Miami, who has family, who has lived through the horror and recognizes that there's no value in that. There's no reason for that. And we should do everything humanly possible to avoid that. Your choice on who you want to listen to. Me, I'm going to listen to the mayor of Miami. And I only hope you are as well. We need to listen to rational people engaged in rational thought who recognize that government isn't here to solve all our ills, which was another great point the mayor made. The government is meant to be small, handle certain things, and we take care of the rest. The markets that he was talking about, that's absolutely correct. But the dependency class we've created and this idea that government's job is to take care of everything. If you remember the bailouts of 2008, 2009, the worst thing the bailouts did was teach people that if anything goes wrong, the government will take care of it. Because it created this idea of too big to fail. No such thing as too big to fail. Sometimes the insurance company fails, and that's the way it goes. But when government engaged bailouts, what it did was show everyone that, oh, look, things can go bad, but don't worry. Don't worry. Government will take care of it. That dependency class growing and growing, and we have to put an end to it. We have to recognize the role of government. The role of government is Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. The role of government should be small and focused, and we, the people, are the ones who should do the rest. And that's why the 9th and 10th Amendment are so incredibly important. Power is not vested to the federal government, vested to the state or to the people. That's us. Good on the mayor. Good on the mayor. I love it when someone can easily explain how absolutely evil socialism is, how bad it is for all of us. And Mayor Suarez did an absolutely, positively excellent job there. I'm glad I was able to see it. I'm glad I was able to share it. It is a short video today. Yeah, I'm sitting at home yesterday, minding my own business, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what is that? I'm like, oh, crap. Like it came on me like that, and then there was no sleep. And now, in as I was playing the video, it was that's a tissue. That's gross. That's gross, cats. You don't have to share. Yeah, it's all in the nose now. It stinks. It's try and do radio with this. Not fun. But there are worse things, like, for example, communism. So I appreciate y'all being here. Daniel, I appreciate you watching and listening all the time. Can't thank you enough for that. Really, really do. David Clark, government was never supposed to be this big. No. Which is why when we talk about programs, we're talking about just feeding the beast, because no program ever goes away. The more programs you create, the larger government is, and it decides, well, what we need now is more programs. Or, of course, the agencies, right? We've got the executive branch, the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and then we have the agency branch of government, this fourth branch of government that no one ever voted for, that seems to have all this incredible power. And we should really start scaling that back, because they don't deserve this power. Kathy, what's going on? Are those... Where are you? Are you in the forest? That's adorable. I'm glad you like the shows. Can't thank you enough. And Grandma Pinky there on Rumble, thank you. I will feel better. I will. So I love doing the show, and why would I let anything stop me? And especially hearing from the mayor there. It's good. Communism is wrong. Socialism is wrong. And we need much, much less of it. And when I say much less of it, none of it in the lives of free and thinking people. Guys, I appreciate you more than anything. And my thanks to Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org, economic liberty, free speech. This is where it is at. Good people. Glad to be doing stuff with them. Even when I disagree with them, they're like, yeah, sure, disagree. Let's talk about it. I'm like, that's awesome. What else could you ask for? I will catch you guys tomorrow.